The system declared his mission a failure. It ordered him to end his own life. He began trying every method he could think of to kill himself and leave this world. But the very people who had once loathed and rejected him, upon seeing his repeated suicide attempts, had a sudden change of heart, desperately begging him to stay. After a car crash, he was reborn into the mission world. The system assigned him 4 female targets. It told him that if he could successfully win over just one of them, he would be resurrected in his original world. Yet after 25 fleeting years, he had somehow failed to win over a single one of them. Perhaps this was just his fate. God wasn't willing to give him a second chance at life. He turned away in despair and walked onto the overpass into the ceaseless stream of traffic. The system's command echoed in his ears on a constant loop. Mission failed. Please terminate yourself, host. Cars sped past him, and his mind flashed with images from all those years of the women's cold, hateful faces. Their hearts, without exception, had been captured by Julian Black, all because he was the protagonist of this world, a man who shone with a dazzling light. The system once tried to console him, saying it was a fundamental law that the main character's pull on the female leads was irresistible. He looked up at the blue sky, a storm of emotions churning inside him. Was he really destined to never win true love simply because he was a side character in this world? He smiled bitterly. Since the ending was already written, what was the point of struggling? He closed his eyes and stepped resolutely into the flow of cars. Just then, a piercing screech of brakes tore through the air. It was followed by an angry shout. Adrian, if you're going to die, don't do it here and get in everyone's way. He opened his eyes to see the furious face of his sister, Clara Mason. Clara was one of the targets assigned by the system. It had told him that if he could max out her familial affection stat, the mission would be considered a success. She was the very first target he tried to win over, but fate is a cruel thing. She, too, was eventually captivated by Julian Black's charm, and because of a single lie he told, she came to hate his very guts. She roughly dragged him into her car, sped to the riverbank, shoved him out, and slapped him hard across the face. If you want to die, find somewhere deserted. Don't drag innocent people into it. I even picked out this nice spot for you, so hurry up and jump. Her voice was dripping with disgust and impatience. He was so dizzy he could barely stay on his feet. In the past, he had attempted suicide in front of her many times just to earn a shred of her pity, a moment of her attention, but he had never truly wanted to die. Now, she thought he was just pulling the same old stunt, convinced he wouldn't actually go through with it. Clara, why are you here? He managed to steady himself, his voice laced with a bitterness he couldn't hide. Aren't you supposed to be at Julian Black's wedding? Did you come looking for me? He looked up at her, a faint flicker of hope still alive in his heart, wishing she would be different this time, hoping she would show just a tiny bit of reluctance to lose him. But her next words mercilessly shattered his illusion. In your dreams. You think you're worthy of that? I was on my way to pick up Julian's suit for the reception. Who knew I'd run into a jinx like you? I'm warning you, Adrian, don't even think about using these tricks to get my sympathy. He looked at her determined expression and gave a bitter internal smile. He had actually thought she followed him because she was worried. He was wrong. He should have known all along. His sister is deeply in love with Julian Black, his most devoted follower, but his heart belongs to Serena White. That's why she's willing to watch him marry another woman, even running errands for his wedding. Such devotion was truly pathetic. He had nothing left to say, so he just turned and walked step by step toward the river's edge. Clara probably thought he was just trying to scare her, so she stood on the bank and said, "Go on, walk faster. Stop dragging your feet. If you want to die, then get on with it. Don't make me late to pick up the suit." He quickened his pace, letting the river gradually swallow his body until he was completely submerged. The icy water flooded his mouth and nose, and he felt himself suffocating. Maybe finally he could be free. But in that instant, a powerful force yanked him upward. With a sharp crack, Clara slapped him again. "You son of a bitch, you actually dared to do it? Adrian, who gave you the nerve?" She cursed at him while dragging him back to the shore. "Let me tell you something. Mom and Dad gave you your life. You don't have the right to just throw it away. His mother is the best person to him in this entire world, and he couldn't bear to leave her. He had already held on for 25 long years, but now he was just so tired. He just wanted to leave. After this failed attempt, He had no choice but to make an excuse and head home for the time being. She yelled after him, "So what if Serena White got married? Is it really worth all this? If you truly love someone, you should want them to be happy with the person they really love. That's what real love is." He was never in despair over Serena White. He only got close to her because he was trying to survive. He found a deserted city park. He bought an extremely sturdy rope. He had to do it outside. After all, his mother was at home, and he was afraid she'd be terrified if she saw him like that. He tied the rope securely to a thick branch, stepped onto a rock he had placed, and prepared to end everything. Staring at the rope that was about to end his life, he let out a bitter laugh. He had spent 25 years in this world. It didn't feel long. It was like the blink of an eye, but it wasn't short either. So much had happened. At first, Clara didn't like having a younger brother. She was afraid his arrival would divide their parents' affection for her. He faced so many obstacles trying to get close to her, but he was convinced that if he was sincere, she would eventually accept him. When they were kids, he'd skip lunch to save his allowance just to buy her gifts she wanted. Whenever she got into trouble, he would step up and take the blame without a second thought. When she fell ill late one night, he was the one who ran out in the pouring rain to find a doctor and medicine, staying by her side all night. That expensive handbag she desperately wanted, he spent his entire summer working a part-time job just to buy it for her. Slowly, he felt her attitude toward him begin to soften. The scales of sisterly affection seemed to be tipping in his favor. But just when he thought he was on the verge of success, Julian Black showed up. He effortlessly destroyed the relationship he had spent years building. "Whatever, I'll just treat these last 25 years as nothing more than a dream." He stepped onto the rock and slipped the noose around his neck. The feeling of suffocation and the raw, scraping pain on his neck quickly consumed him. He couldn't stop himself from struggling, but he tried to stay quiet so he wouldn't alarm anyone. Oh, right. He even left a note hoping it would lessen the shock for whoever found him. It said, "Don't be afraid. I'm the brightest star in the night sky now." His consciousness began to fade, and memories of the past flashed before his eyes like a movie reel. No matter how hard he tried, Julian Black could always take everything from him with ease. Everyone seemed to adore him, while they all just detested him. Just as he felt himself about to die, a pair of arms suddenly wrapped around him, holding him tight. He greedily gasped for the air that filled his lungs again. "Adrian, have you lost your mind?" Standing before him was Dr. Beatrice Hale, his former psychiatrist, who was 5 years older than him. She was also one of his former targets. After he was diagnosed with depression, he had started to get better under her care. Back then, the system had prompted him to try and win her over, so he invested a huge amount of time and energy into being with her. They had dinners together, went to art galleries, visited amusement parks. She even took him to her family's old estate in the countryside, telling him he was the first man she had ever brought there. Her affection for him grew each day, and he thought this time he was finally going to succeed. But then, Julian Black appeared again. He cried to Beatrice right in front of him, "Dr. Hale, Adrian hired people to assault me. I can't go to the police. I have nightmares every single night. I honestly just want to die." And just like that, Beatrice took his side without a moment's hesitation, pushing him away. She held Julian Black in a comforting embrace. "Don't be afraid," she said. "I'm here for you." That day, her eyes bloodshot, she screamed at him to get out. She said his depression was just an act to get her sympathy. She said he disgusted her, and just like that, another one of his efforts turned to dust. It was almost laughable. 2 suicide attempts in one day, and both times he was found by one of the women he had tried so desperately to win over. Is the world really this small? Shouldn't you be at Julian Black's wedding right now? His voice was devoid of any emotion as he stared at her with empty eyes. She had such a gentle face and a soft voice. She always treated people with so much kindness and care. That was why she was the one who had led him out of his depression, and yet she was also the one who personally shoved him into an even deeper abyss of despair. "I'm in a bad mood. Can't I come out for some fresh air?" She frowned, her face etched with impatience. That's right, she was also in love with Julian Black. She had even given up a chance to study abroad for him. With Julian getting married today, of course she wouldn't be in a good mood. "But you, what are you doing trying to kill yourself here? Or did you deliberately pick the spot hoping I'd find you and feel sorry for you? Adrian, can you please stop faking your depression in front of me?" Try a different act for a change. He listened to her words, his heart completely still. He had heard words like these so many times before. She always accused him of faking his depression, but the pain was excruciatingly real. She's a doctor, for God's sake. Why couldn't she see that his depression was real? Does not being loved mean that everything he does, his very existence, is a mistake? He said nothing and got up to leave, already planning his next suicide method in his head. Maybe it was because she had never seen him so utterly broken, but Beatrice seemed to sense something was truly wrong. She grabbed his arm and pulled him back to her apartment. Then she called Clara and told her to come get him. Clara rushed over with Serena White and Julian Black trailing behind her. When Julian Black saw him, a flicker of terror crossed his eyes, and he instinctively hid behind Serena. Serena stared at him coldly. "Adrian, do you really have to put on such a show just to make us feel sorry for you? Today is my wedding to Julian. Did you have to come and ruin it? Haven't you heard him enough already?" Every single one of them was convinced he had some ulterior motive, that he was trying to hurt Julian. He slowly lifted his head and scanned the face of every person in the room. Their faces showed nothing but bone-chilling indifference and a profound disgust for him. He let out a small laugh. "What if I told you it was Julian who hurt me? He was the one who hired people to assault me." The color drained from Julian's face instantly. A flicker of surprise passed through the other's eyes as well. "I didn't, Adrian. Why are you framing me? You were the one who ruined me." Julian's voice trembled, tears welling in his eyes as he tried to win their sympathy with his usual victim act. They always fell for it. "That's enough, Adrian," Clara snapped. "You're the one in the wrong, and you're still spouting lies. Apologize to Julian right now," Beatrice added angrily. "Adrian, I suggest you apologize to Julian immediately." As for Serena, she didn't even bother to look at him, her entire focus on comforting Julian. Maybe Julian really did have some kind of magic, some protagonist halo, because no matter what he said, they believed him without question. His words were always treated as truth, while his, even when they were the truth, were dismissed as lies. He was always the innocent one, and he was always the villain. Looking at them spewing venom at him with such utter disgust, his entire 25-year life felt like a complete joke. He had tortured himself countless times for this worthless life, and now he was just exhausted. Death really might be a release. He tried to break free from their grip, but they held him fast. Trying to run? What are you planning now? Another trick to frame Julian. Clara glared at him. "Let me tell you, you're staying right here. Beatrice and I will take turns watching you. Don't even think about hurting Julian again." And so he was imprisoned there, with Clara and Beatrice as his guards. Meanwhile, Serena left with Julian to continue their wedding. He spent a long night at Beatrice's apartment. They took turns bringing him food, but he didn't touch any of it. He refused to sleep. It would be better to just die like this. Death would be good. He leaned against the windowsill, gazing out with dead eyes. Beatrice finally noticed something was wrong. She gripped his hand, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Adrian, look at me. Do you still recognize me?" He just stared at her silently. A look of panic crossed Clara's face. What's wrong with him? It's like he's locked himself away in his own world. He's trying to destroy himself from the inside out. Beatrice's brow furrowed, and a flicker of genuine concern finally appeared in her eyes. "This time I think Adrian's depression might be real." The next morning, he was rushed to the hospital for a series of comprehensive tests. The final diagnosis was severe depressive disorder. He had been diagnosed with depression before, but back then it was smiling depression. He always put on a happy, optimistic face for everyone. Beatrice knew that, yet because of Julian's lie, his claim that he had hired people to assault him, she had decided he was faking it all. Now he lay in a hospital bed, having gone 8 full hours without a sip of water or a bite of food. Clara tried to force-feed him some soup, but he just weakly spat it back out. She grabbed his jaw, furious. "Adrian, let's just see how long you can last without eating or drinking." After Clara left, Beatrice came in, trying to coax him with the same gentle tone she used when they first met, but his heart was already dead inside. He didn't hear a word she said. Finally, she smashed a glass on the floor in frustration and gripped his arm tightly. "Adrian, don't think you can scare us with this self-destructive behavior. Let me tell you, even if you die, no one will care." He grabbed her hand, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Then just let me die? I just want to die. I want to escape from all of you." What did you just say? Just then, there was a gasp from the doorway, and Serena burst in, furious. She stormed over to him. Adrian, I'm warning you. Don't you dare try to threaten us with your death. With that, she yanked him out of the bed and shoved him toward the window. Let's see if you have the guts today. Go on, jump from here. Jump. They all thought he was just making empty threats, that he wouldn't actually do something so stupid, but for him in that moment, death had become the most tempting escape. He shoved her away with all his strength and stumbled onto the windowsill. But just as he was about to leap, she yanked him back inside. Seeing this, Beatrice rushed forward and slapped Serena across the face. Adrian is really sick. How could you provoke him like that at a time like this? Serena's eyes widened in disbelief. How is that possible? It was hard for her to accept. After all, when he was trying to win her over, he had been like a ray of sunshine, doing everything he could each day just to see her smile. Back then, she was suffering from kidney failure, completely enveloped in despair. He was the one who stayed by her side through it all, running himself ragged searching for a kidney donor, but a suitable match was impossible to find. In the end, he used his system points to acquire a kidney that was a perfect match for her. It was actually his own kidney. The system just used an item to make it compatible with her body. Afterwards, he donated it to her without a second thought. He'll never forget the first thing she said to him after her successful surgery. Adrian, thank you. I promise I will never let you down. But reality proved that a woman's promises could be as light as a feather, easily blown away by the wind. Clara pulled him back onto the bed. Serena looked at him, and a flicker of pain finally appeared in her eyes. How could you be depressed? He didn't answer, just turned his head to look out the window. He really didn't want to face any of them. His heart had long ago frozen solid from the years of daily torment. She moved closer again, placing a hand on his shoulder and forcing him to meet her eyes. Adrian, look at me. You have to be joking, right? Did you pay off the doctor to lie for you, to trick us? He found it completely absurd. They always had a reason to believe he was lying. He remembered at first he used to try to explain himself, but the more he explained, the more convinced they became that he was lying. Now he couldn't even be bothered to defend himself. Getting no response from him, Serena left in a huff. Clara and Beatrice gave up on him soon after. It was for the best. He could finally be free. As night fell and the room was empty, he got up and picked up a fruit knife, ready to end everything. Just then, his mother burst into the room. She quickly snatched the knife from his hand, tears streaming down her face. Adrian, you can't leave your mother. Don't do anything stupid. Mom, what are you doing here? He noticed how much grayer her hair had become. He hadn't been home in so long. He felt terrible. Clara said you were sick and told me to come see you. Her voice was choked with sobs. It's a good thing I came. Otherwise you really would have. Promise me you won't leave me, okay? He couldn't bear to hurt her, so he nodded. Clara walked in a moment later. When she saw the knife on the floor, her expression turned grim. Adrian, are you really going to throw your life away over a woman? Can't you be more like me and Beatrice? We both like Julian too, but he doesn't like us, and life has to go on. He didn't answer, just curled up in his mother's arms, savoring the momentary warmth. Worried something would happen, his mother stayed with him the entire night. Having her there made him feel much better, but he knew that in the end, he still had to leave this world. Early the next morning, he sent her out on an errand, saying he was craving his favorite breakfast from a diner across town. Then he quickly bolted the door and climbed onto the windowsill. 3 stories should be high enough. Just then, a passerby spotted him and shouted, "Someone's going to jump. Quick, call 911." At the same time, Clara and Beatrice were pounding on the door. Clara yelled, "Adrian, if you dare to die, I'll smash every single one of your precious action figures." He used to love those figures, always asking her to buy them for him and keeping them carefully displayed in his cabinet. But Clara didn't know that now his heart was dead. He had no attachment left to anything. Beatrice said, "Have you thought about what will happen to your mother if you die? Mom still has Clara. She'll take good care of her." He closed his eyes and jumped. With a sickening thud, he felt a sharp, agonizing pain shoot through his entire body. It felt like every bone had shattered. His vision blurred as screams and chaos erupted around him. Serena happened to be passing by. When she saw him, her face was a mask of horror as she sprinted toward him. Before this, he had thought dying would be easy. Now he understood just how hard it was. He had jumped from the third floor, but instead of the death he craved, he was left with 2 broken legs and several fractured ribs. Clara was furious. She immediately contacted a psychiatric hospital, planning to have him committed. Beatrice agreed, believing he was beyond help. As for Serena, she just looked at him with disappointment and said, "Adrian, you've really lost it." They were the same as always, filled with nothing but disgust for him. No matter what happened, they never had a kind word for him. Tears streamed down his face, but he chose silence, unwilling to offer any defense. Just then, his mother rushed into the room. Seeing him like this, she cried so hard she nearly passed out. She asked him why he would do such a thing, and then, overcome with emotion, she fainted and was rushed to the emergency room. He was frantic and wanted to go see her, but Clara stopped him. In the days that followed, they took turns sitting by his bedside in silence, forcing him to eat. He couldn't fight back. He could only force himself to swallow, to stay alive. As his body slowly healed, he realized his fate was sealed. He was going to be sent to a psychiatric hospital. Once he was in there, any thought of suicide would be an impossible dream. For the first time in days, he opened his mouth to speak. Lying in his hospital bed, he gripped Clara's hand and begged, "Clara, I'm not crazy. Please don't send me there." When she heard him, a complex expression flickered across her face. Maybe deep down she still cared about him a little. After all, their familial bond had once reached 85%. He was filled with hope, thinking she might feel sorry for him and change her mind. But in the next moment, she said, "No one ever wants to admit they're sick. We're doing this for your own good." Her words were like a bucket of ice water, shocking him back to reality. In their eyes, he had already lost the ability to think for himself. He was just a patient who needed to be institutionalized. And so he was imprisoned in a small room barely 100 square feet. It was stark and empty, with nothing but a cold bed inside. Every day, aside from the nurse who brought his meals, for stone-faced nurses watched him in shifts. They just stood there silently, as if he were the only living thing in the room. He felt a despair so profound it threatened to break him. The desire to die grew like a weed, but he was trapped by the cruel reality of his situation. He tried to beg the system for help, for release, but all he got was a cold "host. I am sorry. I cannot directly intervene in matters of your life and death. That is up to you." Those words destroyed his last shred of hope. He lay in bed, and every little movement brought a nurse over to ask if he was okay. Their care was suffocating him. That night, Julian Black appeared. He quietly dismissed the nurse and approached his bed, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Feeling hopeless? You can't even die when you want to," he said, his voice filled with satisfaction. "You know, it was my idea to send you here. This is the only way to make sure you can never escape my control." He went on, as if admiring his own handiwork. He stared at him, his face blank. He'd seen this act too many times. He was numb to it. Seeing his lack of reaction, his face darkened. He grabbed his throat, squeezing so hard he could barely breathe. "Do you have any idea how much I hate you?" he said through gritted teeth. "In our original world, you had everything and I had nothing. Now we meet again in this system, and I have to compete with you for the same targets. I will do anything to win." He froze. How did he know about the original world? Was he a player in this game too? As he was reeling from this, he saw the shock on his face and burst out laughing. "That's right. I'm a player too, with the same targets as you. In the original world, I was the one who hit you with my car. The system brought us both here to settle things between us once and for all. Now I'm just one step away from victory. As soon as Serena tells me she loves me, I'll have won completely." He looked at him, and the image of the poor student he had helped back in the original world slowly formed in his mind. It was him. He thought his kindness would earn his gratitude. He never imagined this would be the result. "I helped you. Why would you do this to me?" he demanded. The smile vanished from his face, replaced by rage and resentment. "I didn't need your help. That was just charity. We were equals. I didn't need your pity." He shook his head, trying to make him understand. "I never looked down on you. In my eyes, everyone is unique and deserves respect." But he wasn't listening. He just laughed manically, cursing him to be trapped here forever, to suffer for all eternity. He looked at his twisted face and felt a deep sense of pity. He had succeeded. He was trapped in a hopeless situation with no escape. He was helpless, left to pace this tiny room day after day. 3 nights later, A woman appeared under the cover of darkness. Taking advantage of a careless nurse, she slipped in through the window, freed him from his cage, and led him to her car. The car's headlights illuminated her face, and he finally recognized her. It was Lena Price, a classmate from college in this world and another one of his failed targets. She had always avoided him and seemed close to Julian, which had led him to give up on her and focus on Serena instead. Seeing her again now felt like a dream. Her eyes were as gentle as he remembered, the very reason he had chosen her as a target in the first place. "I'm sorry I'm late. I just heard what happened to you," she said, her voice full of apology. "No, I should be thanking you," he thought. "You've given me a chance to finally end all of this." Afterwards, she took him to relive some of their old college memories, the laughter of the arcade, the quiet of the movie theater, the thrill of an escape room. Those moments were the only happiness he had felt in years. He secretly bought a bottle of poison, ready to say goodbye to everything. When he tried to say goodbye, she gripped his hand tightly, her eyes filled with tears. "I know what you're planning to do." Her understanding moved him deeply, to think there was someone in this world who understood him so well. He gently hugged her, and the familiar scent of cedar took him back in time. All these years, she had kept using the cologne I recommended to her. "Thank you, Lena," he said from the bottom of his heart. In the final moments of his life, the person by his side was this woman he had barely known for a month. She took him on the Ferris wheel, and they looked up at the brilliant night sky, sharing secrets they had kept buried for years. She told him she had been alone all these years, quietly watching over him from a distance, which was how she found out about his situation so quickly. As he unscrewed the cap of the poison, he asked her, "So, does that mean you like me?" She froze, not answering directly. Instead, she said, "Wouldn't it be nice if there was a world where we were the main characters?" With a smile on his face, he drank the poison and collapsed into her arms. Her tears fell onto his cheek, and he could feel the sincerity of her emotions. He just didn't understand why she had avoided him back then. As his consciousness faded, the system's cold voice echoed in his mind. "Host, someone does not wish for you to depart. You cannot be released yet." His soul began to drift away, leaving behind an empty shell of a body. Who was it that so desperately wanted me to stay? As his consciousness returned, he saw that Lena had already called his sister Clara to tell her he was dead. Clara rushed over to find Lena cradling his body. His skin was ashen from malnutrition, his frame gaunt, his collarbones and cheeks hollowed out. How is this possible?" Clara's voice was filled with disbelief. She stumbled forward, reaching out to touch him, but pulling back before finally helplessly embracing his cooling body. She screamed at Lena, "Tell me what happened." "He was supposed to be in the hospital." Lena's eyes blazed with a mixture of grief and fury. She shot back without hesitation. "You have the nerve to ask? Do you have any idea what it was like for him in there? He lived like a prisoner, with no privacy at all. He was watched even when he showered or went to the bathroom." He was stunned that Lena knew so much about his situation. She had been watching over him all this time. Did that mean she had come to visit him, and he just never knew? Clara lost control, swinging a fist at Lena. "I did it for his own good." "For his good? That's bullshit. You were torturing him." Lena shot back, her own anger flaring. That wasn't protection, it was cruel, sadistic torture. The two women exploded with rage, launching into a vicious fight, trading blows. Eventually, his body was brought back to his family's home. Clara knelt before his body, silent tears streaming down her face. His last suicide attempt had put his mother in the hospital. Now, seeing his dead body, she collapsed again and was rushed back to the emergency room. He was filled with guilt and helplessness. He didn't belong to this world. He could never stay with her. Just then, Beatrice arrived. She was always so calm and collected, but now, faced with his dead body, she crumpled to the floor, her hands trembling as she reached for his cold hand. "Adrian! Adrian!" She choked out his name, her voice thick with despair and regret. "Don't go. Please, open your eyes and look at me." Lena saw this and rounded on Beatrice. "Now that he's dead, you decide to care? Where were you before? Where were you when he needed you? You're all pathetic." Beatrice didn't argue, just let her tears fall onto his body. A little later, Serena arrived. At first, she thought it was just another one of his pranks, a smirk playing on her lips. But then she touched his lifeless hand, and the color drained from her face. She stumbled backward and fell to the floor. Lena, enraged, lunged at Serena. He's dead, and it's all because of Julian Black that he ended up like this. Impossible. Serena, Clara, and Beatrice all denied it in unison, but the doubt in their eyes betrayed them. Lena let out a cold laugh and slammed her phone down on the table. The screen lit up, playing a video. In the video, Julian was giving orders to several women. Assault Adrian. I'll give you $500,000 when it's done. The women's sickening smiles filled the screen, followed by footage of his horrific assault. He tried to remember, but all he could feel was endless humiliation and despair. The memory was a knife twisting in his heart over and over again. He had been the victim, but no one had believed him. Only a stranger had offered him a sliver of comfort. The video played on, and the horrific images made him clench his jaw, his eyes burning. He never imagined the truth would come out like this, and he never expected Lena to fight so hard to clear his name. But Serena lunged forward, trying to destroy the phone. Lena's furious voice echoed through the room. Do you see now? This is the man you all worshipped. You believed every word he said, but you never believed that Adrian was innocent. He was the one who had Adrian assaulted. Lena's voice was filled with rage and frustration. When Adrian came to you for help, what did you do? The room fell silent. Clara, Beatrice, and Serena were all speechless. They remembered it all clearly. Julian twisting the truth, framing him, and how they had treated him. Clara had beaten him, Beatrice had abandoned him, and Serena had cursed him. This is the truth, Lena said, each word landing like a hammer blow. Every single one of you owes Adrian his life. With a thud, Clara fell to her knees in front of his body, her voice choked with, I'm sorry. Your sister didn't know? I really didn't know. Oh, so now you remember you're his sister? Lena sneered. Did you forget that you were the one who had him committed? Lena's voice was laced with fury as her gaze swept over Beatrice and Serena. And you, Beatrice, as his doctor, you should have understood him better than anyone. But you and Clara just decided he was crazy. And you, Serena, Adrian was your rock during the hardest time of your life. He even gave you his kidney, but instead of being grateful, you turned around and married another man. Don't any of you have a conscience? Lena's words were like a scalpel, dissecting their guilt and laying bare the debt they had owed him for over a decade. Finally, he saw it on their faces, a guilt and pain so profound they couldn't hide it. He didn't know how Lena knew so many of his secrets, but he was incredibly grateful to her. She had not only given him his release, but she had also cleared his name after he was gone, allowing him to witness their regret. That day, none of the women who had played such a significant role in his life left his side. Each of them in their own way tried to atone for the pain they had caused him. Clara brought all his old action figures, asking which one was his favorite. Beatrice unrolled a painting they had made together, reminiscing about their time together. Serena held his hand, tears in her eyes, begging him to forgive her and come back to her. And Lena silently arranged his funeral. She didn't seem outwardly sad, but he knew she was in more pain than any of them. The deepest grief is often the quietest. Taking the opportunity, his spirit drifted to the hospital to see his mother, who had just stabilized. She was demanding to see him, but the doctors refused, saying her condition was too fragile. He drifted closer to her and whispered, Mom, please take care of yourself. I'll be with you in the next life. He thought she couldn't hear him, but she looked in his direction, tears rolling down her cheeks, and whispered back, I know, Adrian. You take care of yourself over there, too. The day of the funeral was bright and sunny, but nothing could dispel the gloom. Everyone was dressed in black, their faces grim. Clara clutched his urn, walking step by step toward his grave. Adrian, I hope you're happy in the next life. Remember to eat well. Serena and Beatrice followed close behind, staring silently at his photograph. Suddenly, he realized Lena was gone. A pang of disappointment hit him, but just as the service was ending, she reappeared, dragging a bound and gagged Julian Black with her. Clara, are you ready? Lena's voice was low and steady. Clara nodded. Hidden beneath her coat was a homemade bomb. Today, everyone who wronged my brother will pay the price. Lena kicked Julian to the ground, her eyes filled with a terrifying resolve. All of you can just die. She had planned this all for him, for his revenge. Lena, how could you be so foolish? Was it really worth it for me? Julian struggled to get away, but it was too late. Lena and Clara pulled the detonator cords at the same time. With a deafening boom, a fireball erupted, consuming everything. "No!" he screamed, but no one could hear him. Lena was innocent. Why did she have to suffer for his sake? Congratulations, host. In the final moment of your life, you have achieved 100% affection from Serena White, Beatrice Hale, and Lena Price, as well as 100% familial affection from Clara Mason. Your mission is complete. You will now be resurrected in your original world. The system's voice echoed in his head, but he felt no joy, only a vast, empty grief. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying in a hospital bed. A nurse quietly informed him that Julian Black, the other person in the car crash, had not survived. Also, a girl named Lena Price, she survived as well. Just as the nurse finished speaking, he saw Lena walk slowly into his room on crutches, a small smile on her face. "Adrian," she said, "this time, we finally get to be the main characters in our own story." She came closer, her eyes shining. He pulled her into a tight hug, silent tears streaming down his face. In the days that followed, Lena told him everything. It turned out they had gone to the same college, and she had been quietly watching him from afar the whole time. When she found out what Julian was planning, she decided to intervene. That day, she had tried to cut him off with her own car, but she couldn't prevent the crash. While she was in a coma, Lena had also encountered the system. It told her that if she could make him fall in love with her, she could return to the real world. The system also told her about his mission to win over one of 4 targets to survive, and Lena was shocked to discover she was one of them. Lena was torn. She wanted him to choose her so we could both complete our missions, but she was afraid it would put him in even more danger from Julian if he succeeded in winning her over. Her mission would also be complete, so she deliberately kept her distance, even pretending to be close to Julian, just to lower the chances of him choosing her as a target. But when she saw him being framed by Julian and misunderstood by Clara, Beatrice, and Serena, she couldn't stand by and do nothing anymore. She secretly gathered evidence while sending him anonymous messages of encouragement, hoping he would keep fighting. Finally, when he was at his lowest point, locked away in that hospital, Lena risked everything to get him out. She knew he had no other options, that he would choose to end his life to escape that world, so she begged the system to let him see the remorse of the people who had hurt him before he died. Amid the roar of the explosion, the system declared her victory. "Congratulations, host. Mission successful. You have obtained 100% affection from Adrian Miller, as Adrian has also completed his mission and holds 100% affection for you. You will both be returned to your original world." Hearing all this, he leaned in and kissed her. "Thank you," he said softly, "for choosing me, both in that world and in this one. Lena, I love you. I love you too," she whispered, holding him tight. Their 2 hearts beating as one. They knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything that came their way, because love is the most powerful force of all.